let's talk about running backs that you should start or sit in week 9 of the fantasy football season. Now, keep in mind, we've got 4 teams on bye: the Browns, the Jets, the Eagles, and the Bucks. So no Judkins, he might not have played anyway. No Breece Hall, Saquon, who's also nursing an injury. No Rachaad White, Bucky Irving, right? But I'm going to go through all of the matchups this week so you'll know exactly where I rank every single running back. You can pause your screen and go to a specific matchup if you like. There are also time codes in the description. Let's start off with Thursday night football. Ravens at Dolphins. One of the higher over-unders of the week. It makes a lot of sense. We've got a ton of explosive players in this game. The Ravens are heavy favorites at 7.5 points when you look at the spread. Lamar Jackson. Finally, I know what happened last week where they said they thought he was going to be there, but this week we are very confident Lamar Jackson's going to be out there. I would say 99% chance he plays. You probably know that by the time you're watching this. The good news is on their most recent practice report, he was a full participant, and Harbaugh actually says, I feel very confident. I expect him to be out there. That is fantastic news for one Derrick Henry, who's my RB6 this week. He goes up against the Miami Dolphins. Name a single running back outside of Bijan Robinson last week who hasn't absolutely dominated the Miami Dolphins defense. I mean, this is a huge week for Derrick Henry to get back on track just like he did last week. He should have another massive one. I would be shocked if he has under 15 points. Obviously, it's great to get Lamar back. They should be up in this game. They're heavy favorites. All signs point towards a big King Henry game. On the opposite side, Devon Achane is really game script proof. It's a great matchup as well. The Ravens are the second best matchup for your running back when you look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So it doesn't get much better for Thursday night for these two fantasy superstar running backs. Let's go to the start of the Sunday slate of games. We're starting off with a game that is tied for the second highest over-under of the week. The Bears at the Bengals. Bears are 2.5 point favorites, so it's very close. There should be a ton of fantasy points in this one. DeAndre Swift has been so good since the bye week. I mean, he's been really impressive, has been probably the reason, if you have him, that you've won each and every week since his bye week. Now he gets the Cincinnati Bengals. That is the best matchup for your fantasy running backs. He should absolutely smash. Kyle Monangai in deeper formats, maybe you can throw him out there. But I have a feeling that with Joe Flacco and the way that Bengals offense is operating, there's probably not going to be much garbage time. I think this is going to be a very competitive game, so I'd be very concerned to start Kyle Monangai. On the opposite side, we are going to go ahead and label Chase Brown a must start. It was awesome to see him get into the end zone last week. Now, obviously, it's through the air. I mean, let's be honest. We're not going to be greedy. We're going to take touchdowns no matter how we get them. But he did get a receiving touchdown, over 25 PPR points. That is the Chase Brown that you've been dreaming about. It's a great matchup against the Bears. They're the 8th best matchup for your running back. Last week, he had 15 touches. This is what's a little bit concerning for me. I mean, you could honestly view this as a sell high on Chase Brown going into this week because Samaje Perine is not going away, right? The snap share is getting closer and closer. The opportunities are getting closer and closer. Samaje with 10 touches last week compared to 15 for Chase Brown. Chase Brown is still going to be the preferred running back, but man, I might view this as a sell high. Regardless, Samaje Perine, if I had to choose between both of the RB2s in this matchup, it would be Samaje. I think no matter what happens with the game script, he's going to be involved as well on third down. He'll be an important part of that offense. So both of these backups could have a solid role, but I prefer Samaje if you're going to choose one of them as a desperation play. That's all they are, desperation plays. Okay, Vikings at Lions, 47.5 point over under. The Lions are favored by 8.5 points. Now, these are two defenses that are pretty difficult matchups for your fantasy running backs. For the Lions, things are easy because they're heavy favorites in this, 8.5 point favorites in Detroit. When they're in Detroit, typically that run game is on fire. Gibbs and Montgomery, they should both be in your lineups. I will say David Montgomery's role is a little bit concerning this year, how it's continuing to shrink, but this is has all the ingredients. I was going to say recipe. All the ingredients for a really good David Montgomery game. High over under. Lions are heavy favorites. Both of those guys should be in your lineup. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, the honeymoon phase for Jordan Mason is over, obviously, because now we have Aaron Jones in the picture here, and you're going to have to really digest that each and every week. I don't view this matchup versus the third worst matchup for your fantasy running back, the Detroit Lions defense, not easy to run against. In a matchup where the Vikings are heavy underdogs, I do not anticipate that being a very good game for Jordan Mason. Last time out, in a game they trailed the entire time, Aaron Jones was the preferred running back. He outsnapped Jordan Mason. He had 9 touches compared to just 5 for Jordan Mason. And obviously, when they're down in games and needing to pass the ball, Aaron Jones is going to be their preferred running back, right? So I would say Jordan Mason's got a very low floor. I mean, even if he gets a touchdown, he could still score under 10 points in the wrong matchup. And this feels like the wrong matchup. So I would suggest to most of you guys, find another option other than Jordan Mason, unless it's truly your best name. Aaron Jones is as well just a flex option, not even a locked and loaded guy. He's just a flex option. And you hope that these guys on their limited touches can convert. Now, here's the issue. Carson Wentz, he's going to be out for the entire year. I don't think he was going to play this week anyway. It was probably always going to be JJ McCarthy. But not only do you have a bad matchup with a split backfield, but you also have to ask the question, how successfully can JJ McCarthy lead drives with this offense, right? We don't know the answer to that. So a lot of question marks with that Minnesota Vikings running back room. I don't like it. Let's jump to the Panthers at the Packers. 44.5 point over under. The spread is 12.5 points in favor of the Packers. That is the second largest spread of the week. So we do need to talk about the Panthers running back room because there has been some news this week. So head coach Canales on that situation, on the rotation, said things like, Chuba Hubbard has meant a lot to this team. We wanted to give him an opportunity following his calf injury. We cannot ignore the fact that Rico has been exceptional. I'm a little bit concerned with that verbiage because Canales, the head coach, is saying in past tense, Chuba has meant a lot for this team, as in he at one point meant a lot. It doesn't feel like he's talking about a present, now, and a future for Chuba Hubbard. Then they went on to ask, hey, is Rico Dowdle going to get a heavier workload? And Canales said, it's something that we're looking at. So right now, if you're going to start one of these names, in my opinion, it has got to be Rico Dowdle. Even when it was a split backfield, he was the more effective guy with his touches. Now there's a really good chance that Dowdle gets more and more opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if he even starts this week. So if you're going to start one of these guys, it's going to be Rico Dowdle, but I haven't even labeled him a must start because it's a terrible matchup. Even if Rico starts for this team, terrible matchup. The Packers are 30th in fantasy points allowed. And, we actually look at that opposite than most people. So the third worst matchup for your fantasy running backs, right? They do not give up many points to fantasy running backs. You have a matchup where second largest spread of the week, not in favor of Rico Dowdle, not in favor of Chuba Hubbard. You have a great defense that you're facing off against. It's very likely that in the second half, this team is not able to establish the run game. Exactly what happened last week against the Bills. That's probably what's going to happen this week against the Packers. So I would be very cautious with these Panther running backs. If you have to start one of them, it's Rico Dowdle, but lower your expectations. And Chuba Hubbard is a desperation Hail Mary at best. On the opposite side of the ball, of course, Josh Jacob is going to be in your lineup on a very good team. If he were to miss time for whatever reason, then Emmanuel Wilson would be a decent spot start. Okay, Broncos at Texans here. 39.5 point over under, which by the way is the lowest over under of the week. The spread is 1.5 points in the Texans' favor. So at home, let's give the Houston Texans some respect. They've really hit their stride. Their defense looks great. Now, this is a situation where a couple backfields that are really difficult to navigate week in, week out, right? We know that with the Broncos and the Texans. Now, let's start off with the Broncos. Obviously, as we all know, RJ Harvey ended up with 3 touchdowns on Sunday. That was great for him. However, he only touched the ball, 8 times? Yeah, he had 7 rushing attempts, 1 target, 8 touches, 3 touchdowns. So it's not like his role drastically improved. I mean, we're still seeing J.K. Dobbins with 33 snaps. Second there, RJ Harvey with 17. They're still including Tyler Bidet into the rotation. You're still seeing J.K. Dobbins with 17 touches. So I'm not going to come on the show here and tell you, oh, you got to start RJ Harvey now and you can't start Dobbins. No, I would still prefer J.K. Dobbins over RJ Harvey. He is in that flex territory for me, low-end RB2 this week. RJ Harvey still remains a risky start. Until you're seeing this guy consistently get double-digit touches, you just can't rely on him on a week-to-week basis. And the Texans just shut down CMC. They're a legit defense. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, how about Woody Marks? I got destroyed by the comment sections for being so in love with Woody Marks this year. He was one of our favorite stashes. Then he turned into one of the best waiver wires. And then that week 5 matchup versus the Ravens, obviously it didn't work out. But man, those who, like myself, shout out to the Woody Marks truthers, stayed positive and looked at the bright side and looked at the numbers behind the curtain. It's really been paying off for us. Last week against the 49ers, Woody Marks comes in here, has 11 carries for 62 yards, very efficient, very effective, had 4 catches for 49 yards, dual threat guy, over 15 fantasy points. And that's what you want from Woody Marks. You want to see him used in the air, on the ground, in really close games. That's probably exactly what you're going to see against the Broncos again. I would not be shocked if Woody Marks has another day over 10 PPR points where he's heavily used on the ground and through the air. Obviously, Nick Chubb is always going to be there. It's a little bit frustrating. I mean, last week, for example, he had 19 total touches. He looked completely ineffective, but they're always going to use 2 running backs in this backfield. But Woody Marks is the one that can win you your day through the air. That's why he is a spot start for us in our top 22. Just before we get into this next matchup, I want to tell you guys about a completely free feature that you should be taking advantage of. Now, if you go to the Flock Fantasy site and you create a free account with the promo code LAND, you can gain access to what we call the My Teams feature. That allows you to see all of the expert consensus on your league, where you stand, rankings, league rankings. It'll help you look at recent trades and help you actually design trades yourself. So check that out in the description if you want to have some fun with the free feature on the Flock site. Let's go to Falcons at Patriots, 45.5 point over under. The Patriots are favored by 5.5 points. Bijan Robinson coming off, I can't remember the last time we had a bust game from Bijan Robinson. Like, truthfully, it's been a long time since Bijan has not paid off for you. In this game, he has just 5.8 fantasy points, 9 carries, 25 yards, got 3 targets in the air. I mean, he was averaging like 150 plus all-purpose yards per game before this game. Had Miami, there was every reason for him to go out and dominate, but they don't play the game on paper, do they? That's why this game is unpredictable. We take all the information that we can and we make our best guesstimation. And I'm going to go ahead and make a guesstimation here that Bijan's going to get right back on track. There's no way you're going to bench this guy. Still my RB3 heading into week number 9. He's going to shake it off. This happens, guys. Every single player can bust any given week. On the opposite side of the ball, Ramondre Stevenson continues to be the dominant running back from a usage perspective in New England. We did see some signs of life for Travion Henderson, He had those 10 carries, 75 yards, 7.5 yards per carry. That's great. But still, you saw Stevenson get 16 total touches. So he was still by far the preferred running back. 50 snaps out of 68, just 14 for Travion Henderson. And for some reason, we're still getting Terrell Jennings involved. So until further notice, if you're going to start one of these guys, it's not a great start regardless, but it's going to be Stevenson, my RB24, a low end RB2 this week. Let's jump to the 49ers at the Giants. CMC, another guy who rarely busts in fantasy football, did not have his best game last week. It really doesn't matter who CMC plays. You're going to put him in your lineup. Now, for the Giants, it's a middle-of-the-pack matchup against the 49ers. Obviously, Cam Skattebo, he's out for the year. We knew that as soon as we saw that play. He sent a great, supportive message, or a grateful message rather, on X. It's good to see him doing well mentally. But this puts Tyrone Tracy straight into our lineups. It really does. I know that might sound crazy to some of you guys, but Tyrone Tracy last year as a rookie was a must start pretty much each and every week when he won that job. And we know that when Cam Skattebo went down, Tyrone Tracy saw almost 60% of all the opportunities, snaps, target share, rushing attempts. So we're going to put Tyrone straight into our lineups. This Giants offense is feisty. Don't expect them to sit back now that Skattebo is out. I think Tracy could be very heavily involved. Okay, let's go to the Colts at the Steelers. 49.5 point over under. The Colts are favored by 3 points. Let's start with Jonathan Taylor. Of course, you're going to play him. He's the RB1 on the year. He's my RB1 this week. Now, when I look at a Jonathan Taylor, we have to actually start to contextualize how impressive his year is so far. So every player with 850 rushing yards, 12 plus rushing touchdowns through 8 weeks in the NFL season for the entire, however long the NFL has existed, over 100 years. It's Jonathan Taylor who's done it, Jim Brown, Terrell Davis, Eric Dickerson, and Priest Holmes. He's in rarefied air right now, and I mean, he's leading you to a championship. On the opposite side of the ball, Jaylen Warren's a great play. He has completely taken over that Steelers backfield. There was a moment there where we weren't sure how involved Kenneth Gainwell would get, but another week where we see, just an absolutely dominant performance from Jaylen Warren, had 15 total touches, continues to be the guy in that backfield. Didn't work out versus a really good Green Bay Packers defense, but he should get back on track against the Colts. Okay, Chargers at Titans, 42.5 point over under. The Chargers are favored by a heavy 10.5 points. I think that spread should be much bigger. And the Chargers probably win this by multiple touchdowns. Kamani Vidal, great matchup for Kamani Vidal this week. The Titans are the third best matchup for your fantasy running backs. He completely dominated last week on Monday Night Football. He is the clear-cut, unquestioned guy in that backfield. He's in a great offense, now has a great matchup. You start him. Top 12 play for me this week. On the opposite side of the ball, we've seen this trend for multiple weeks now where the Titans start to use both of these running backs in their backfield. And for multiple weeks, Tajay Spears looks like the more effective running back, the running back with more juice, right? This week, you can see Tajay led the way in snaps. It's pretty much been back and forth since Tajay came back between these two guys. Tajay had 12 total opportunities, 13 for Tony Pollard. But again, when you look at just how effective these guys were, 9 carries, 59 yards for Tajay. Way more effective than 11 for 44. Obviously, Tajay is also the better pass catcher through the air. So I would go out and say, if you have to start one of these guys, first off, it's a desperation play. Recognize that. If you're going to put one of these guys into your lineup, you're probably not a favorite to make your playoffs, right? But if you're going to start one of them, I would still lean Tony Pollard just because he gets more of the touches. But it's really a toss-up at this point, honestly, guys. Okay, let's go to the Saints at the Rams. This is the start of the afternoon slate of games. 44.5 point over under. This is the largest spread of the week in favor of the Los Angeles Rams. Alvin Kamara, I can't tell you how frustrating it is watching the Saints games. If you have Alvin Kamara, I have him in the flock league. So I get why you would be frustrated to talk about Alvin Kamara because I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed talking about it. I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest pass catching running backs of all time. And Kellen Moore has just decided that, there's no point in using him in the air. It's so frustrating, even in games when they're down. He can be so effective for you. Make your life easier. Stop trying to hit the home run ball every single play. Dump it off to Alvin Kamara. Sorry, but they're just not doing it. Kellen Moore doesn't care. He doesn't care. Alvin Kamara, 8 touches. And the vast majority of all of his opportunities came in the first half. I mean, he had over 5 points in the first half. He finishes with 6.5. I don't know what it would take for Alvin Kamara to be relevant. It would probably take, we've already seen a Kendre Miller injury. Maybe we would also need a Devin Neal injury and a Taysom Hill. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. There's not much juice with Alvin Kamara anymore. I'm watching it. He's not the same player, so I get it. But I don't know where the grass gets greener. It certainly doesn't get greener against the Los Angeles Rams, who are the second worst matchup for your fantasy running back. I expect him to be terrible this week, but purely because he's a starting running back for a team and should get volume. He's in my RB3 range, fringe RB3, my RB26 on the week. On the opposite side, start Kyron Williams with confidence coming off the bye. He should be back in business. All right, let's look at the Jags at the Raiders here. Travis Etienne is set up to come back from the bye and absolutely smash. It's a great matchup against the Raiders. Top 10 matchup for your fantasy running back. He should be in your lineups. The Jags are favorites, even though it's in Las Vegas. And on the opposite side of the ball, it is a difficult matchup for Ashton Genty, but you would anticipate with, Pete Carroll and, that coaching staff, surely they figured some things out after the bye. They're going to come into this week with some game plan to get Ashton Genty more involved. I still think he's a must start purely because of the talent and the volume that he's going to receive, but I can recognize that, the floor is not what we wanted it to be when you drafted him. Okay, let's go to the Chiefs at the Bills. 51.5 point over under, tied for the second highest over under of the week. Chiefs coming off a big Monday Night Football win. They are 1.5 point favorites in Buffalo. Kind of shocking, honestly. But this should be a really fun game for fantasy football purposes. Look, at the time of recording this, I'm not 100% sure how serious the Isaiah Pacheco injury is. Let's live in two different worlds. The first world we're going to live in is a world where Pacheco, Kareem, and Brashard Smith are all healthy. Well, if that's the case, every single week is going to be a Russian roulette. You have no idea which guy's going to get the goal line opportunities. I mean, right now, it seems like Kareem Hunt. 2 weeks ago, it felt like we've seen multiple weeks where Isaiah Pacheco was getting the goal line opportunities. It's a desperation play, all these guys. It's a great matchup, but I don't know who the hell you start. And I think you're lying to yourself if you think you do know. Now, in the scenario that Isaiah Pacheco is out, I think it makes things a lot clearer, and you can start Kareem Hunt with confidence because it is a good matchup. On the opposite side of the ball, you never sit James Cook. You let Jimmy Cook in your lineups, and you lock him and you load him. All right, absolute stud of a running back this year. Okay, let's go to Sunday Night Football. We've got the Seahawks at the Commanders. 45.5 point over under. Again, Sunday Night Football. Seahawks are favored by 3 points, even though it's in Washington, and I understand why they're favored by 3 points. A bunch of running backs that you have no confidence in whatsoever in this matchup. I mean, let's be honest. This might be the most viewed matchup in this video. A lot of people are probably clicking on it right now in the time code. I want to know what to do with the Seahawks running backs. I want to know what to do with Bill Krosky-Merritt. Look, here's the deal. Let's start with the Commanders' backfield. Bill Krosky-Merritt is only going to be a good fantasy asset in games where the Commanders are competitive or up in the game. Now, if Jaden Daniels is not out there this week, very low chance that this team is competitive. Even if Jaden Daniels is out there, you're facing a Seahawks rush defense that is legit. They're a tough defense to go up against. So I have Bill Krosky-Merritt as a fringe RB2-3, a flex at best, low-end RB2, high-end RB3. I do not have much confidence in him. He's a talented player, but it's just not working right now without Jaden Daniels. There are so many injuries to that Commanders team. Bill's got all the talent in the world, but it's just not clicking. On the opposite side of the ball, if you have to start one Seahawk, why the hell wouldn't it be Zach Charbonnet? We've had 7 weeks of a sample size where this team has told you in short yardage, in goal line scenarios, they want Zach Charbonnet to be the guy. And he's been really good in that role, to be fair. So Ken Walker, if he's going to score a touchdown, it's got to be outside the red zone. That's just how this team is operating. I prefer Zach Charbonnet. I think Ken Walker is a more talented running back. I don't think it matters. I just don't think it matters. Ultimately, all 3 of these guys are more likely to disappoint you than make you happy. All right? That's the nature of fantasy right now. Just before Monday Night Football, I got to tell y'all, I'm on an absolute heater right now in my DFS game. I just won last week's Quick 6 Super Slam contest. We've got number 1 place here. We had Barkley, Taylor, Cook. Those guys at the top of our lineups just dominated, which means we won $500. Now, here is my lineup for this week. We're rocking with Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, welcome back Pookie, Kyron Williams, DeAndre Swift against the Bengals, Metcalf against the Colts, and Etienne against the Raiders. You can create your own lineup. It's simple. All you got to do is download the FastDraft app, use my promo code LAND. I'll match your deposit up to $50, and then you can create your own lineup, whatever you want it to be, right? So check that out in the description if you want to have some fun on FastDraft's Quick 6 Super Slam contest. I'd love for you to come compete against me, all right? All right, I need some more competition over there. All right, let's go to Monday Night Football. We've got the Cardinals at the Cowboys, 53.5 point over under. This is the highest over under of the week. All right, the Cowboys are favored by 3 points in Dallas. Now, for Arizona, they did just recently release Michael Carter. Now, they are planning on bringing him back to the team. We saw that report as well. But if anything, I already had this confidence if they release Michael Carter or not. But if anything, that just tells you Bam Knight is a really good start this week. He's my RB17. He's completely dominated opportunities for this team in the last couple of weeks. And he faces the Cowboys, which is the 4th best matchup for your fantasy running backs. Obviously, Bam Knight has to go out there and produce, but there are every sign in the book to suggest that Bam Knight is a great play this week. I would play him over all the guys we talked about in the previous matchup, the Charbonnets, the Walkers, the Krosky-Merritts. He is a confident play for me this week, regardless of the outcome. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, breaking news, you're going to start Javonte Williams, one of the best picks in fantasy football this year. Yeah, he's going straight back into your lineup, and he's going to be playing for you. Guys, I appreciate you so much watching the video. Do me a favor, hit that like button and show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. And I will be releasing my wide receiver version of this video in just hours from now. So make sure you're subscribed. and you've turned your notifications on so you don't miss it. Let's get prepared for week 9. Good luck. Draft with me every night this week on the FastDraft app, where there are thousands of dollars to be won weekly. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at signup to get your deposit match up to $50. That's up to 10 free entries on us. And when you finish your first DFS contest, I'll send you my weekly rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today.